Now, as we wrapped up that last video, we were getting ready to code these different frame tags, but something I want to show you first is that if you actually run this right now, what you'll notice is that it actually does start breaking up your window into frames. Now, what I'm noticing here is that I have 2 columns, but not 2 rows. So that tells me that something's off. My code isn't actually perfect. But if I go back in here and I notice row needs to be rows. And now if I actually run it, you should be able to check and see before you even code those frame tags that you have this broken up correctly. So here I see I have my 2 rows in column 1 and my 1 row in column 2. So you should be able to check that off and make sure that it matches. Now from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start coding each of these. And I just kind of sat here and thought through some of the main information about each. So we're going to start with frame 1, which is our header frame, which is this one up here with the picture of the Bill Thomas illustrations. And it's in the top upper left corner. Now from here, we know that this contains a logo page, and we have yet to create this page. So I'm going to pick a name for it right now as I code its source. So I'm going to pick the name of header.html, and I'm going to remember this so that when I go and code this page later on, I can link it to this particular frame. Then the next thing I note is that it'll remain constant, that no other pages will appear there. So this source, once it's linked, will stay there. And that particular page will display. Now from here, I know I need to give each frame a name so that I can reference it if needed. So here I'm just going to call this header. And then we also should be giving each frame a title, just header. I'm just going to make it header as well. Now from here, it's saying it should not allow scrolling. So I should have scrolling equals, and I have no. I know that this may not be popping up as color coded. It should still work in your code, but if it doesn't, let me know and I can excuse you from future parts of this. But this should still work even if it didn't color code for you. Then from here, you also want the frame borders to be turned off. So we have frame border is equal to no as well. So there's frame number 1, our header frame, and that's what your code should look like. It's just as we expected. Now we're going to move on to frame number 2, which is our menu frame. So we can see that here we have a table in there with pictures and text, and this is going to be our menu. So inside of here, we're going to start coding its specifics. The source, I didn't need to create this page yet, but I know it's going to be a navigational menu, so I'm going to call it menu.html. Then I need to give it a name. So again, I'm going to call it menu, and a title, going to call it menu so that I can reference it later on. It should allow scrolling. So while I could include scrolling equals yes, I don't need to because that's the default value. And then from here, frame border needs to be turned off. So it needs to be equal to no. So again, pretty simple, just thinking through, okay, what should be displayed right at the beginning? That's menu.html. That's not going to change as my web page is displayed. Then I need to give it a name and a title and think about the different attributes I want associated with that frame. Then finally, if I look back at my image, I notice that this last frame here, my home page frame, is going to be what displays a picture and what changes throughout the program. So here, my main frame is that entire right column, and that is this frame right here. So here it's column 1, and this single frame tag represents column 2. So from here, this is going to link to the home page. So again, I haven't created this yet, but it's going to link to the home page. And the key part here is this is at the startup. We know that this particular frame is going to change as we navigate our web page. So that home piece, that home.html, is just going to display whenever the image or whenever the frame definition file is first displayed or when the browser screen is refreshed. Then from here, we want to give it a name so that we can link to it. So we have home and title. I'm going to call it home as well. And then actually, I think what I did is I actually named it Win Main. So we're not going to name it home because I named it something different. So we have Win Main here, and then Win Main here. So I'm saying it's the main window, the main window. That's how I named that file there. You can use any name you want. Just be careful as we get to the coding down below that you're using this correct target name here. Then the next thing I need to note is that the scrolling should be on, which it is by default. And then frame border, I want that to be turned off. Now, something to note here is that this name for this particular frame is very, very, very important, because if we're going to be changing what's being displayed in this frame, we need a way to reference it. And by giving it a name, we're making it unique. So when we actually start coding other pages, we're going to be referencing this particular name of this frame. So we know exactly what frame we are referencing and what frame we should be changing within our window, okay? Then from here, there we go, it should match. And now your frame definition file is done. So now if I run this right now, since I haven't actually created those pages, you can see that the files don't actually display yet. But as we start actually coding those pages, they should start appearing in these different frames on our screen. So that's what the next video is going to focus on, actually breaking it apart and being able to, now that we've broken it apart, see the different web pages appear inside of the different frames.